Good afternoon. I hope you're not tired by the end of the day. I am going to be really quick. If you have any doubts, you can interrupt me in the middle. You know what are hormones? Any thoughts? What are hormones? You can say anything. So hormones are basically, yeah, you are true. So hormones are basically chemicals that are released by organs called glands. There's so many different hormones. They make sure that your body is oiled well, it is running smoothly. It becomes more relevant in children because a child is a continuously changing body, both mentally and physically. So both this for mental as well as physical growth, hormones make a very, very important contribution. So we're going to talk about two topics. I'm going to talk about two topics. One is puberty and another one is thyroid. And then Professor Dr. Harikumar is going to carry on the other two aspects of the hormones. So what is puberty? So we're going to learn what is puberty, what is normal, when you need to worry, and what as a parent you are going to do about it or you need to do about it. So what is puberty basically? Puberty is a time where is an intense physical, social as well as emotional change in the child. It's when your child is going to grow up into an adult, it's going to emerge into an adult, and there is a very important role you're going to play to facilitate that aspect. So in girls, puberty is mediated by a chemical called estrogen, and that the first sign of puberty in a girl is changes in the breast. If you see in a pre-pubertal girl, the chest is flat, both in boys and girls. Once the estrogen starts, you see that there's a slight change in the breast. The first thing that you would notice would be what we call as breast bud appearance. This is typically like a button shape, like a cloth button shape swelling just underneath the nipple. Many a times parents miss that. You would have to palpate, check with your hands to see that when you're giving birth to your child. Sometimes they can complain of tenderness, not actually pain, but pain on touch. So that is kind of 50% kids have it, 50% don't have it. Sometimes it starts only on one side, which is absolutely normal. They're going to have completely normal breasts later on. So that is the first sign. And when the breasts grow little bigger, you may have to go for bra shopping for sports bra, a cotton one, because in a child who's very active, they need a little bit of support and maybe something to prevent the constant touch, rubbing against the t-shirt to protect from tenderness. So what do you think is the usual time when they would start the breast? Any age that you would think is normal for them to start showing the signs? Okay. So how many for 10? How many for 12? Normal, usually. How many for 8? Nobody. So normally it starts around 10. But usually we do consider anywhere between 8 to 12 as normal. Early or not is a different question, but physiologically, bodily, it could be normal that it can start at 8 or it can start at 12 also. So even a child is 11 and a half, no changes, maybe you don't need to worry for another 6 months, right? So the final menarche, the first menstruation, we call it as menarche. That is the end point of female pubertal development. That typically happens around 1.5 to 2 years after the breast bud appearance. So once you see the breast appearance, the parents kind of get really worried that the child is going to have periods like in another couple of months. But typically it takes about 1.5 to 2 years. So these days what we see is kind of a rapid progression in puberty in certain girls. It starts early, progresses in 1 year itself. That can be a little problematic. If it starts at 8.5, it could be normal. But if it progresses in 1 year, they might end up having periods at 9.5 itself. So in boys, what happens simultaneously is that the testosterone is the boy's hormone. The first sign that happens is enlargement of the testicles, and then gradually penile size also increases. Because it starts at around beyond 11 years, usually 11 to 13 years is the time. Most of the times you might not be able to notice by the time they take their own bath, and so maybe the father might have to check if they're not noticing any signs like other signs like underarm hair and pubic hair. By about 12 to 13 years, they may have to check the child once before going to the doctor. And boys also develop enlargement of a voice box, larynx, a bone called larynx that makes them break the voice, develop a deep voice. Yes. And facial hair is kind of at the later stages of puberty. So both in boys and girls, they do develop simultaneously underarm hair and pubic hair. Their face becomes greasier, they may develop acne on the face and shoulders, and you might notice that they are having body odor. A child, however much he or she sweats, they don't have any odor. Only when they start entering puberty, they started kind of stinking, literally. When they are at 13, 14, you can't even go near them when they are coming after a basketball practice. So, and both girls and boys, they do have that height spurt. But it's important to remember, especially in girls, after periods, they hardly have any growth left. Once their periods are over, they may at best grow 2 to 3 inches. That is the importance of identifying early periods because it can cause height compromise. So when do you worry in girls? If you see any signs of puberty, either breast or hair, before 8 years, or if you are not seeing any signs whatsoever, even if the girl is around 12 to 13 years, then you have to take your child to the doctor. There's one more condition where you need to see the doctor is, you have seen that your girl is showing all the signs, but periods are not starting. Even after around 4 to 5 years, after the time when the breasts start. So then also you need to go and see your doctor. And for boys, the usual normal range we see is around 9 to 14 years. Before 9 years is too early, and even at 13.5 to 14 years you're not seeing any changes, that is too late. Then you need to go and see the doctor. And more important than that, so if your child is going through normal puberty, what as a parent you should do? So the first thing is you have to start the talk. You have to start the discussion before they enter the puberty. You can't let them Google the stuff, they are going to get the information for sure, whether you're going to talk or not. So it better come from you as a proper relevant information. It's always a good idea to talk in a direct and matter-of-fact way rather than using metaphors or beating around the bush. And most importantly, have short talks. Don't make them sit and give a lecture or anything. If a situation arises, somebody asks about underarm hair, you can just briefly mention it's a part of growing up. Some new good hormones are coming in your body. It means that your body is healthy. So, and then again after a certain time, you can explain about breast changes. And after a certain time, before the periods happen, you have to prepare your girl what needs to be expected. It was not the case in our childhood, if you remember, but the generation has changed. They are going to get information, mostly wrong information, half-baked information from the internet, which actually causes more trouble than you sitting down with them and talking. So, fourth point is most important. We're going to reiterate that because it's important for us to listen to them, immediately judge, immediately, however silly the question is coming from a child, it's important that you listen, you try to answer. If you don't know the answer, maybe you can tell them that I'll learn better and I'll come back to you. Let us discuss it at a later date. So, and you may have to teach basic hygiene as well. So you need to remember that a child is trying to become independent. At the same time, they are dependent on you. So it's a delicate balance you may have to play. They might be quite disagreeable. They might argue a lot. They want to be on their own mostly, and we may have to respect that to a certain extent. And most important, you need to keep the communication lines open. Always they should be able to tell you anything. Even if they kill somebody, they should be able to come and tell you. That should be the kind of communication you should maintain. If you don't immediately judge, they are going to do that. If you don't immediately respond to what they say, they will tell you everything. So you need to maintain, last 2 points are important. You need to maintain structure to their day. You need to maintain timings, mainly for food and bed. These two are extremely important. The rhythm is important even in puberty. In puberty, they may have to sleep little more. They might sleep little more in the morning time. You have to let them sleep half an hour, 1 hour extra in the morning. Physiologically, they need more sleep. They'll not be able to wake up so early. Give them minor responsibilities. Don't do everything for them. Give them certain responsibilities. It's all a give and take deals. You need to make deals with them. And yeah, last one is, I think we all know and difficult to practice, but we should practice. So moving on to very briefly on thyroid. So what is thyroid? It's a butterfly shaped gland here, not here, here, not here, here. So it's a butterfly shaped gland below this bone, below the larynx. It produces a hormone called thyroxine. So why is it important in developing child? When should we worry about it? So like we said, hormones are more important in children than in grown-ups. And thyroid is the only hormone from the hormone point of view for brain development in the young children. If you see a small baby, their head is so small. It needs to increase. Actually, the brain size of the brain increases literally, rather than in addition to acquiring memories and learning. The size of the brain increases mostly till about 3 years. It gets new coating, new good fat coating. So for this kind of a growth, from hormone perspective, thyroid is extremely essential. And beyond that, it's important for physical growth as well as pubertal maturity and good metabolism also. So we have 2 conditions with thyroid, what is called hypothyroidism, which is under-functioning thyroid. So there are 2 types of hypothyroidism. One is by birth, we call it congenital. One is acquired, which happens later. So congenital hypothyroidism, you might not be aware, but very, very common. 1 in 1,000 from medical point of view is common. We call it uncommon if it is 1 in 10,000. So roughly 1 in 1,000 babies are born with some sort of thyroid abnormality. Some babies may have symptoms like this child with large tongue, protruding tongue, and then maybe protruding belly button we call umbilical hernia. But some babies could be completely normal. So you cannot differentiate looking at the baby whether the baby has a thyroid problem or not. If we do not identify it early in the first few weeks of life and treat it on time, we are going to end up with significant and permanent intellectual disability, poor growth, and very, very delayed developmental milestones. Next, please. So all we need to do, simple blood test. Usually we do it after 2 days of life, between 2nd and 3rd day. And then if identified that we have a problem, we have a very simple solution, very cheap and easily available medication. So there is this concept called universal newborn screening. So it's based on the precipice that it's based on the underlying principle that if you identify the thyroid disorder, congenital hypothyroidism, within 2 weeks and start treatment within 2 weeks, you can prevent all that intellectual disability and growth issues. It is not at all a new theory. It's actually started almost 50 years ago, almost 30 years ago. So from 1974 onwards, currently almost 25 to 30% of newborns throughout the world, they do get universal newborn screening. It's not just limited to developing countries, developed countries. Developing countries like Mexico and Malaysia have a well-established newborn screen. It's not new, it's not something we need to think that whether we should do it or not, we just should do it. So in childhood, it might present with neck swelling, we see here in this girl, which is called a goiter. You may come across with problems of height growth. Next, please. And you may come across with rapid weight gain. Here it is tricky actually. Sometimes, many times parents come with a thyroid report and a weight gain. Thyroid report is barely abnormal, like little bit abnormal, just a little elevated TSH. So here the problem is actually a weight gain because of lifestyle issues that is causing the thyroid abnormality. Not the thyroid abnormality causing the weight gain. A thyroid abnormality to cause the weight gain, it has to be really abnormal. It will be like really abnormal. TSH would be 100, 70, 150, 200. Not just 7, 8, 9. So this borderline abnormality with excessive weight gain, we don't treat it. We treat the weight gain. So, and it can cause pubertal abnormality. It can cause both early puberty as well as late puberty, and in older girls it can cause menstrual irregularities. And finally, just a note on hyper, because we were talking about hypo. Hyper is over-functioning thyroid. You might not need to know about it because it's very uncommon, especially in children, extremely uncommon. But it can also present with neck swelling, can present with poor growth, sometimes with very prominent eyes, bulging kind of eyes. So those are the common conditions. Thank you for your patience.